Hi everyone, it's Renee with Delaney Jane Cards. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be using Joy Clair Designs Bumble Bear, and I printed it out in this sepia tone, which kind of gave me the no line coloring feels, and I thought that was kind of cool. Usually I steer clear of no line coloring in general because it scares me because there's no black lines. But I also used to steer clear of digital images because there's only black lines. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I guess I felt like I had options. I could stamp an image in brown or in dark green or something like that and kind of get a lined, no line look. And digital images scared me, but I wanted to try to do a no line image, and I just printed this off actually using Word, Microsoft Word, and I just changed the color of the lines. Yeah, it was actually kind of more technically advanced than I had hoped it was going to be, but I did get it figured out. And yeah, so that's how we got brown lines. And I loved most of the coloring in. There is another technique that I really want to show you. It is stippling to give this bear a fuzzy look. But first I need to color him completely. And I figured while I'm doing that, I will talk to you a little bit about this bear image. Now, this image does not mean the same thing to the person that drew it. This was drawn by Melinda, by the way. She has some really adorable stamp sets with Joy Clair Designs, and this one here will be linked below. It comes in a physical and a digital set. Anyway, back to this bear. This bear reminds me of a bear that's here at my house. In 2013, my husband and I had a daughter. Her name is Delaney. She is, well, my channel here is Delaney Jane Cards. And she was born in October of 2013. While I was pregnant with her, I joined an online support group of moms that were all pregnant from all over the world. To this day, we are still friends, just so you know. So if you're looking for an online support group, it's something you should definitely do. They're usually private, and it's just people that do the same time, they're going through the same things. Anyway, we were all pregnant, so everybody was feeling the kicks and having the questions and, doing all that stuff at the same time. And Delaney wasn't the first one born in that group. There was actually 3 babies that have survived that were born before her. A set of twins and a singleton. And anyway, after she passed away, this group of ladies had grown incredibly close. I think there's just something about being super vulnerable in that pregnant stage, in having something like this happen, and as an outsider seeing the struggle and everything that we went through, I think it just made us all much closer. Back to the card here for a minute. So I'm using a stippling technique. I did not use the lightest color, which was my E11, to start my stippling. I started it with my E13, stippled over everything, and then really just used the darker and darker shades to stipple into the shading. Well, back to my story. So when Delaney passed away, these women, they felt it huge. I mean, I felt it big. I still feel it today, but they felt it huge. They were all very vested in her, in my pregnancy, in her struggle, in my emotions, in my grief, in my support. They were very vested. One of the moms sent some flowers. She did it a couple times, and one of the times it came with this bear that was dressed up in a bee costume, which we still have. if I received a gift for Delaney or after Delaney passed away, I still have it. I can't part with it. I just can't. But this bear is still in my house. It's actually in my youngest daughter's bedroom now. Her name is Adelaide, and it is up on the shelf in her room, and she loves that bear. But that is why I was drawn to this image, because in my house, in my daughter's nursery, there is a bear that looks just like this that we received when my daughter Delaney passed away. It just was one of those fate moments, those meant to be, those I need to color this images. And I'm not telling you this for you to be sad. I'm telling you this because that is why I picked this image. There are a ton of other images in this digital set, in this stamp set, that I could have chosen, but that's why I chose this one. I really felt like I absolutely needed to color it. The bear that we have is even holding a flower that looks just like this. It's just ridiculously close. And I just felt like I needed to share that is why I picked this image. So here I'm getting to the end of the stippling. I went all the way out to my darkest color and then all the way back to the E13, and I still have the E11 left. Right now he looks really kind of still like a hot mess. But then I take the E11 and I blend over the entire thing, and it changes the entire look. It looks like a fuzzy bear, am I right? And it makes a huge difference in how he looks. I mean, he was cute when he was just a gradient of color, but by adding all that stippling, now he is fuzzy and adorable, and he looks just like the bear that, sits up on Addie's shelf. So I colored in the yellow stripes first, and I went all the way out to a brown and an orange for my deep tones. I really wanted this to be rich and colorful, and I felt like if I went with a really, really light yellow color, it would look not cohesive with the rich tones that are in the bear's fur. And I still get that really light yellow blend by using that Y08 there for the highlight. Just get that really nice deep shadow around the edges of the bear. It shows that he's a round object. So I'm filling in the entire black part of the bear or the bee costume here with gray marker. Sometimes I don't, sometimes I do. I guess it just depends on how I'm feeling. But I brought the W markers in for the stripes of the bee costume. Like I said, I wanted that rich, warm tone. Cool markers would not have felt warm. The neutral markers might have been just fine. I haven't used them often or a lot lately. For a while, that's all I was using, and then I needed to refill a bunch of them, and I believe I've refilled them all, but I have been gravitating toward my warm grays lately. Do you, whatever color medium that you prefer, do you find yourself coloring with a specific set of colors for a while and then move on, or are you pretty good about switching it up? I feel like I switch it up, but I also get stuck in a rut. There you see me make a huge mistake, and I colored the warm gray right on the edge of the arm, and then I was like, well, I'll figure out how I'm gonna fix it. What I did is went in with my darkest brown there, which was the E18, went right over the gray, and then I blended it out. It's okay. I mean, if I didn't tell you that I did it on accident, you would probably think that I just shaded it there so that there was more definition. I don't know. That's what I would have thought, but I went ahead and just spoiled it. Now this camera angle that I've been using when I color, you can really see the tip of the marker, and you can see that I'm getting a super fine line by holding the marker very vertical. The more vertical you hold the marker and the less pressure that you put on it, the finer of a line you can get. And I wanted to actually shade the antenna on this little bee's costume, this little bear's bee costume. So I made sure that I kept that darker gray color off to the one side, and I was very, very careful. I mean, I don't have any black lines, so as long as I keep it smooth and keep it looking the same as the other side, I really wouldn't have any problem there, but I wanted to make sure that I, tried to keep it a nice fine line. They are drawn. These images are really drawn to color. They're beautiful. Melinda did an excellent job with this set, and Martha did an excellent job choosing this set. Martha owns Joy Clair Stamps. She recently purchased a company and has been doing kind of a marketing overhaul and is bringing in some new stamps. We recently had a release. This was one of the stamp sets, and there wasn't anything in the release that I didn't like. I just absolutely enjoyed this release so much. Here I pinked up the cheeks and the ears just a little bit with that RB42. It didn't do much to the face, but it did enough to the ears that it made them a little more pink in the inside. I used those same warm grays here for the nose, and made sure I left a little highlight because it should be shiny. The little button nose on the bear is shiny. And then I wasn't sure what else I was going to do. I got that bear colored and I felt so accomplished, and I didn't want to screw this up because so far I was really liking how it was turning out. So I pulled out the same yellow tone markers that I used for the bear's costume, except I added an additional yellow, which is the Y08. Oh, here when I was coloring the flower, I realized that part of his hand was underneath the flower there. So here I'm going to use the same dark shadow tones, and I'm going to shade each of the petals of this flower. You can see that I'm going right along the edge of the petal, and where one petal would kind of go over the next petal and where it would be kind of dipped inward toward the center of the flower. I'm going to add shading there. See how I'm going along the edges? Only the edges that are actually like underneath the petal. And then I'm going to blend that out with that. It's a YR14. I believe this is an E19 YR14 Y08 and then Y02 blend. It just gave me, I did add in the Y17 to kind of bridge the gap between that YR14 and the Y08. And I'm going all the way over the shading and everything just to add that brightness of the yellow. And then I got to these petals and I realized that I wanted to brighten up the very tip. So that's why I brought in this Y08 here, and it just absolutely brightens up this flower. It definitely reads very similar in tone as the stripes of his bee costume, but it looks a little brighter. So it looks a little bit different, but still cohesive. And I like to do that when I'm coloring, kind of keeping the colors very cohesive. It just looks good to the eye, to my eye anyway. I am not an artist. I wouldn't even claim to be a colorist. I have always claimed to be a card maker. It allows me to dabble in everything and not have to master anything, and I love that about card making. So here I use the same brown tones that I used on the teddy bear on the, I'm going to call it a sunflower, and then I did add a little bit of stippling to the center because that is where all the little seeds are on the flower. And since I added all the texture to the bear, I wanted to make sure that I brought that texture in somewhere else. Here for the little bumblebees, I am going to color them very, very simply, very similar to the stripes on the bear. I do not go as deep in tone because they are secondary things. They are not the main image. They are just little supporting characters in this whole little coloring scene that we're doing. So on the note of being a colorist, do you consider yourself a colorist if you like to color? I love to color. I love to color with my Copics. I love to color with my colored pencils. I love to paint. I love to ink blend. I love to color. I love to use color, which is why I will never say that I'm a colorist, because I enjoy all of the forms of bringing color to paper or to an image. That is why I 100% always, without a doubt, will tell you that I am a card maker. I love the concept of making a card. It is one tiny little art project at a time. I get to finish it up. I get to give it away or sell it or record it, but I get to finish it one little tiny art project at a time, and I can feel like I mastered something, or at least kind of mastered something, and then I can move on to something else. In the month of March, I practiced my watercoloring. I need to get back and play with that a little bit more, but that was really fun. I tried to only use my watercolors for the month of March. There were a few other videos in there that I used other things, Copics and colored pencils. But for the most part, I stuck to the watercoloring, and I believe that it absolutely made me better with my watercolors. I was more confident, and I feel like I understood how my personal set of watercolors worked much better at the end of that month. I use my Copics a lot. I color with them a lot, but I feel like I need to focus on another medium. Is there a medium that you think that I should focus on next? I do have colored pencils. I do have my watercolors, and I have Copics. I also have water-based markers like Zig clean color markers and a few Tombow markers. And in my coloring mediums, I also have several colored inks. I have the Distress line of inks in some of the Distress oxides, as well as other ink pads from other companies that are in other colors. Now, with all that being said, is there a particular coloring form that you think I should focus on to build my skills? Because, like I said, I am a card maker. I can dabble in everything and not master anything, but I do like to have kind of a solid base of skill, practice, technique underneath all of this fun. I mean, I do color for me, and I don't always follow the rules. I do what looks good to my eye and just hope that it looks good to everyone else's too. Not always the case, but sometimes. So I would like to know from you, is there another medium that I should be practicing? Because I love my Copics, and they are my go-to. If I had to pick, that would be where I would go. But I absolutely, like I said, enjoyed my watercolor month, and I do feel like I will be going back to some watercolors here real soon, just to bring them back, because I kind of miss them. We have skipped over a bunch of the coloring here. I used that RV42 for the bees' noses and some E11 for their faces. And then here I'm using this BG combination for the bear's wings. I slowed it down here for this larger wing so that you could really see what was going on. It's BG70, BG72, BG74. Is it 74, 72, 75? 70, 72, 75. There is quite a gap between the 70 and the 72, so I do have to kind of scrub at the edge. You can see here that I am doing that with the nib, just scrubbing it lightly, but you can see how it moves the color around. It has a lot of colorless blender in this marker, so it will move the color around and help blend it. Some people tell you not to go back over. Like I said, I don't always follow the rules. I like my results. I feel like they're tried and true. I've been practicing with these markers for a long time. I don't always get, things can always look better. I can always get better. But that is how I do it. So for the eyes, this little bear comes to life when I start messing with the eyes. So far he's cute. But because his eyes are printed in that light brown color, they don't really pop. So here I am filling in the black parts of his eyes with this Copic multi-liner. And then I'm going to use a white gel pen to add the white to his eyes here. And he becomes so stinking cute. I just couldn't even, I was like, oh my goodness. Then I added a few white gel pen dots to his fur. And this is the number 10 Jelly Roll pen that I'm using here. It's got a thicker line, and it rolls really nice. So then I wanted to add some highlights. Oh, first I did the little bee's eyes. Then I wanted to add some additional white highlights, but I didn't want it to be so thick. So here I pulled out the number 5 gel pen, and I used that to add the little pupils into the bee's eyes. And then I added some little white details to the bear as well. And you can see how much finer of a line that is. I don't always use this number 5 gel pen. It doesn't roll as nice as the 10. I think it's just because it's a smaller, like ballpoint pen kind of deal. And then I added this glittery pen over the wings. This is about where I realized that this golden color was kind of the wrong color for this because I can see the edges of the wings. And I was really sad because I was like, did I just screw this whole thing up? I'm going to have to throw this all away. And then I was like, no, I am not. I'm going to just keep going. So I pulled out this Digis hexagon embossing folder. I've had this one forever. I almost always have A2 size embossing folders, and that one's kind of big. I don't even know where I got it, but I don't know why I got a bigger size. It's weird. But I have this piece of yellow cardstock, and I'm going to ink blend on it. Carved pumpkin, and this is the marigold one. What is that color? Dried marigold. And I'm going to blend those just to give a gradient of color on my colored cardstock. This is something I really enjoy for backgrounds. You kind of get, it's the cheater ink blending method, because that yellow sure looks really, really beautifully blended. That's the color of the cardstock. So then I wanted this pattern impressed into the background, and I took a brown Distress Oxide and I inked up the parts of the folder that are going to deboss, so be inside the lines. And when I embossed it, then I got the line pattern and the texture. Just had to make sure that I used that side of my paper. And then I wanted my sentiment, and see here, all the sentiments are like the same brown color because I printed the whole thing in that color. So I went to another sheet that is printed in black, and this one here says, thanks for being there. And I thought that was the perfect sentiment for kind of an encouragement card, a thank you encouragement card, and we could use a lot more of those always. So I cut these out with my Simon Says strips, sentiment strips. They're probably my most used die in my craft room. When I bought them, I did not think that that was going to be the case, but I use them all the time. Then I chose to mat this on a piece of dark brown cardstock, and then I wanted to kind of subdue this honeycomb pattern behind my bear here just a little bit. So I decided on a piece of really thick vellum. This stuff is super thick. It is from Muse Studio, and I'm not sure you can even get it anymore, but I have this giant pack of it. So I do use it quite a bit. You can see just how thick it is. It's almost hard to see through, which is good sometimes. I mean, you can see through it, but then not so much. And I ran that through my embossing folder so it had the same texture. And then I decided to stick it down. I made sure where I put the adhesive was right behind the bear. I mean, I can't even see the adhesive. It's that thick. But you never know. Somebody might be kind of picky and be like, I can see the glue. So I hid it behind the bear. It also allows the edges for that circle to kind of float off the background there. It's just a little bit more texture to this card. So here I stuck that down to the piece of brown cardstock. And now I'm going to pop up this bear and just add a little bit of dimension here. And I'm going to stand him right on the thanks for being there. So that is the outside of my card. So then I got my card base ready. And as you can see here, it is not cut very well. I was trying to square it up before I got started. You'll see I didn't do a very good job then either. To finish the inside, I was going to put this little strip across the bottom, but I decided I would much rather have the longer strip along the edge, and I adhered that to the inside and then just trimmed off the extra. Recreased my card base. Super hopeful that I had cut it square and it was all better now, and it's not. You can see that there's a white edge. I will go in and fix that later, but I wanted to take care of this golden line around the wings. First I tried some sequins, and that line was bothering me so much that I needed to fix it first. So I took the White Blizzard Nouveau drops and I put that all over the wings. I thought it made the wings look, first of all, like they had depth and dimension, which is why I picked the darker color underneath. But it also made them look like they had this golden edge. Then I took a little bit of water on my glass mat there and a flat paintbrush, and I just went over the Nouveau drops. It allowed me to get a flat finish on that, smooth out the layer of Nouveau drops. Then I added these copper penny Nouveau drops here, just a few of them around the bear. I thought that he needed just a little bit extra, and I do absolutely love this little bear. He has good thoughts for me. Somebody took time out of their day and their life and sent us just a little token of their love, which we still have in our home today. So that's why it reminded me, that's why I colored this bear. So have you tried digital images with different colored lines? And again, is there a medium that I should be focusing on my channel? Do you have any suggestions? I absolutely appreciate you stopping by. I would love it if you would subscribe and comment. I love chatting in the comments. And as I always say, give cards generously. Bye.